with devotees is all their experiences with Tapas, Prabhu, and especially for me, since in a way, I feel like I knew him for a long time, but of course it's nothing compared to people known him for a long part of your life. So when I joined ISKCON, louder? Closer?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, now. When I joined ISKCON, it was right when this time was happening, beginning of 2017, when the Govinda temple, everything. And Tapas and Lajarati, and they were in a way always like my spiritual parents, I felt like, in ISKCON, and I have so many memories with them traveling. I mean, they all my first experiences as a devotee traveling and beginning to chant, everything really from the beginning. So this is a very foundational part of my devotional life. I just wanted to mention a few things. I was thinking it feels like we can all garland Tapas, we can put a garland of him, of our experiences, even though maybe I feel like my experiences are so insignificant, but at least this is all building on his life. And my experience is the same mood that Pranava Prabhu mentioned, of this giving to the unqualified. And that's how I always felt, like he would give me these opportunities to serve in the ways that I was the least qualified for. But our qualification is being unqualified, and that's why we get the mercy. I mean, he allowed me to come with to Mayapur Yatra. I mean, I was completely new devotee, and he brought me along with all these more experienced devotees, and always encouraged me to study. And even after I did the Bhakti Shastri, he wanted me to give the Bhakti Shastri in Brahmasan, which was pretty funny, actually, me out of all people. But even though expressing my doubts, he was still pushing me and encouraging me always to do more. And, also, in line with this, I have a story that I think is a little funny. When I was only a few months in the movement, and I was graduating high school, and I had just joined, and my mom knew that I liked to go to the temple, so to get me a gift, she went to the temple gift shop. And this was in this time where we were moving, and it wasn't really open, or barely, but I think Padmavati wasn't running it anymore, so Lajavati Mataji was running it. But this one day that my mom happened to go there, Tapas Prabhu was running the gift shop. And she just went there and asked, do you have any recommendations for Elsa? What to get her? And what Tapas told me later is he just didn't even think, but something in him prompted him to just point at these Gornitai deities in the gift shop. So then for my graduation, I had no idea. I opened the gift for my mom, and they were just Gornitai deities. But yeah, that was very, again, the least qualified person but he just gave unconditionally. And small things, he's very personal to each person. And again, listening to everyone else's stories, I think I have my relationship, and then everyone has such an individual, close relationship with him, and he really catered to each person so personally, and he was there for everyone. You have a hard moment, and he would send a long message in detail, giving very specific instructions and advice, and so personal. And small gestures, if I was working in the Govindas, I worked there for some time, so if he knew that I was working there, he knew that I didn't take milk products, so then he would make a special, for me, and put it aside where I was working, by the cash register, and just these, he didn't have to do any of this, and he was just so generous in his mood. Also, just really, all these things, amazing cook. But it's a pretty significant part as well, and lectures. It's a really amazing classes, really, if you really listen, you mentioned these articles, and in Brahmakund the mood was very, I felt like very family mood, and nothing pretentious or no big show of the lectures, but the quality of lectures could be seminars for a much larger audience. these are just some small flowers of a garden of an offering. Tapas, Prabhu. Yeah, I would like to hear more, but I will go. So, thank you so much.
Deep realizations. So I wanted to reflect something about the last days of Tapas Prabhu's appearance here. But he was severely tested. He had difficult to breathe. Such a severe, horrible situation. He actually wrote me about the panics he experienced, and he was struggling with just breathing. And we can just imagine, if we just think about in our life here now, if we had suddenly difficult to breathe, and he was struggling with that. And one very wonderful thing that I often think about is that he, in the end, he really wanted to heal relationships to devotees. So because he was so determined and sincere in his endeavor, like a real warrior, so he was naturally in relationships with devotees. Sometimes there are frictions, and he really reached out to devotees to heal these relationships. At that point when he was like really struggling, as we said, hard to breathe, panic attacks and like that, and he was so generous and loving. We came here a few days before we left to Brahmakund. It was me and Lalita and Prabhu, and we were invited to his room, and he was laying in his bed. And I saw him laying there in the bed and struggling with breathing, but at the same time his eyes were like shining. I was thinking about Bhishmadeva, who was severely tested, laying on a bed of arrows, struggling, and gave instructions, very, very important instructions, in the last moments of his life. And like an offering of love to dear devotees and relatives, and in glorification of the Lord Krishna. So Tapas Prabhu also, when we came into his room, he was laying there struggling, and I was so loving. Like he embraced me, Lalita and Prabhu, and we were sitting there, and he was speaking, and he was holding my hand very, very hard, and he was just so loving and generous. So came to my mind that also Srila Prabhupada in 1977, before he left, he had this note that he wanted to heal relationships. He expressed something like, sometimes I preach very, very strongly, and so he wanted to get forgiveness for his what he expressed like harshness, because Prabhupada didn't make any offenses. Everything he did was with pure motives, pure love, but he was a warrior. So Tapas Prabhu was also a warrior like that. And he, I think, just reminds me about Srila Prabhupada's notes, that he so humble in the end, and just wanted to heal any kind of misunderstandings. When I see this photo, I think it's very wonderful, very special. I actually took it myself. And he's so present. It's like each time I come to the moment, it really hits me. And he's so present and smiling like that. Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Sweden in 1973, in one lecture he gave in the Spinning Temple, he mentioned that he pointed to the Panchatattva altar, Guru Guranga altar, and Prabhupada said that don't think these are pictures. They didn't have any details then yet. So he said the Supreme Personality of God is personally present. And Guru Parampara, the previous acharyas, they are personally present. And Prabhupada said it's a question of your realization, a question of the quality of your devotion. We realize that they are personally present. So today when we gather like this, and for remembering Tapas Prabhu, I just see he's so very much present here, and he's blessing us by his presence. He's back with Krishna, and he's still here. So I very much appreciated the offerings from Pranavat Prabhu, Prabhu Prabhu, Lakshman Prabhu, and Elsa. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
A little bit for this occasion. Something this has some poetic aspects to it, but bear with me. Srimad Mukunda Prabhu, he mentioned a smile of Tapas. So that I remember the picture by a great big painting by Jamanalaya Prabhu, which is in Amritsar temple. Krishna has a special smile there, and this smile reminds of that one. Yes. So I just wrote this one, and it is what it is. Thank you, Tapas Prabhu, for the many years of managing temples, restaurants, and Sankirtan. You were always attentive and focused when communicating and preaching. Your caring words and happy face brought relief from the mundane stress and noise. You took the challenges with open arms, even when told to distribute 200 plus books in one day in a Tamasic Shudra town. Srila Prabhupada's wish was the magic pill, in quote, that made the wonders happen again and again. In your last days, you said you were afraid. Of course, I believed him, stupid as I was, so I started to speak with him about near-death experience and so on. He checked me, I think. Sorry. And sought the blessings of all those devotees visiting you at your deathbed with Tulsi Devi as your constant companion there. It was all the way it was supposed to be. Now you are with Srila Prabhupada's team, and the wonders continue according to Lord Krishna's supreme wish and bliss. We can only strive and pray to do our part while here, and wish to join you and Srila Prabhupada whether in a palace, tent, or a Sankirtan van. Whatever is the plan.
Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Tapas Prabhu, and all the devotees. So much wonderful things to hear from all the devotees of different generations. And I can add a little bit of mine, my association with Tapas Prabhu, which started in the late 2007 till almost his departure time. In between there was some gap, but I can remember the days of
Tapas Prabhu when I arrived in Stockholm. When I arrived, he was away actually for quite some time. So what I see from Tapas Prabhu from the beginning to the last, it is my small realization, a life of dedication. So many years, so steady, doing the service. So many problems came, but he continued. So many people came and left, but he just went on. So I was understanding what is the life of dedication actually. Yes, it's evident from the life of Tapas Prabhu. And then I thought about his life. He was born in Norway. Norway is now the richest country in the world. He had everything, materially speaking. But then he joins the movement of Prabhupada and takes some service. Later part in Stockholm, he could have easily taken a job. He could have nicely practiced Krishna consciousness. He could sing, he could give classes, he could do it. Being outside, one can live outside and also do, like most of us, speaking about myself, so I do, but no. He chose a life of poverty, chose a life of struggle, chose a life of total dedication to the mission of Srila Prabhupada and to please Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Yes, my experience is he was indeed a Gaura Bhakta. When you mentioned Nityananda Prabhu, of course, what I see, he was a real Gaura Bhakta. I remember when I came and he will be there every Saturday, Harinam. He will not miss a single Harinam with his harmonium. And he will sing hours and hours. Every Saturday in the morning, he will come packed with prasadam in Govindas for so many devotees because there was Srimad Bhagavatam every Saturday in the temple. And amazing prasadam. Potatoes, unpeeled potatoes, steamed in cream and Greek yogurt. Some devotees can remember that time. And his Ekadashi halwas of potato flour. And he will bring such a big quantity. I remember. We were like 15, 20, and each one will get like this on Saturday morning. And after this whole morning program we'll have on Saturday, and then Bhagavatam, long Bhagavatam. He used to give long classes. Such deep, clear, such clear classes that any person, can easily get the clarity of spiritual or material life. He was so focused, so dedicated. So the words came out from his mouth, just transforming in our heart. So it was so inspiring. And then, after such a long program, after talking with devotees and collecting all the pots and things, we will head down to Harinam. No, he was not in his 40s or something. He was still that time also he had quite advanced age. And Saturday Harinams from 12:30 to 4 o'clock. And sometimes he'll also have Saturday programs sometimes. We used to have once a week Sadhu Sangha in Brahmakund. And he will arrange everything himself. A person is running the temple, running Brahmakund. That's in itself to drown anybody. He will invite devotees in Sadhu Sangha. He will cook. He will lead the kirtan. He will give long classes and then he will ask everyone also to say something. And then he will cook also. For sometimes devotees help. And he will serve himself, everyone. Every single one. So I remember those days. We used to have morning programs twice or thrice in a week, and evening programs also twice or thrice in a week. And of course, he was never away a single Sunday program. Always there, not for the program, but he will do the shopping, bhoga shopping, see, and he will cook the Sunday feast. Sometimes we used to help like that, but he will cook the Sunday feast. Then quickly make the offering, prepare the offering, and Rajavati Mataji will do the offering. She will be dressing the deities, and sometimes other devotees help. Then he will come and lead the kirtan. And then he will give class for 1.5 hours. That was every Sunday. And what after that? There will be prasadam, of course, and take care of guests and talk. And after that, we'll have Harinam another for 45 minutes. And I can imagine he was completely finished, but there's no place to rest because we're still in the midst of people. And Mataji would try to wind up, Sunday program, because the jewelry, the clothes, and the place has been messed. And then he has to, kind of wait. But you can't rest there. You have to engage in something. And they will leave the temple in the midnight. Mataji is here.
Yes.
Every Sunday, I have personally come with them 1:30 in the night, also in the festival night. And then Monday morning, you will see him every day, Mangala Arati, 6 o'clock, right, Mataji? Nobody will come for him. He will be the lone person. In my eyes, I have seen him. He will be doing, some 1 or 2 people come, sometimes I will come, but he will be there every day, Mangala Arati. And then when we will come, he will have Bhagavatam class. And then after that, prasadam. And sometimes I can go back to the temple for the temple program. So this was his life. I was trying to understand what is the meaning of dedication. And yes, he was so philosophical in his class, very analytical. Something he will analyze it and will present in such a unique way. Wow, where did he get that point? Such too much, such a tonic for the brain to analyze the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam for him. Yes. So what I learned from his life, he chose this life of Krishna consciousness. He could have lived Krishna conscious life in an opulent way, dedicated to Prabhupada. He chose life of poverty, hard struggle, you do, and sometimes people will like you, sometimes people will not like you. But he went on. Many people came and left, but he went on and on till his last breath. But I'm sure, this, as Prabhuji mentioned, the devotees have mentioned, he perfectly knew the message of Srila Prabhupada. He knew the message of Lord Chaitanya this lifetime. He did not want to repeat the cycle of birth and death. He was determined to go back to Godhead. Not only go himself, but take as many as possible with him. He touched the life of so many devotees. What a life, what a life he has lived. Such a successful life, touching the lives. My life and so many countless, I can say. And that is this aspect of life when he was, Prabhuji has already mentioned 250,000 books, which was less, maybe 500,000 books or more mentioned. So that was before, and this is, of course, you can divide his life into different stages. What I witnessed his life was through Govindas and Sridhar's plan. And then, of course, Govinda had to go, such a struggle to keep the temple. But after that, to get a new place, he could have just shut down, It is not possible. There were no devotees, very few. But he kept on. He started centering in, what was that? Badet, Central Badet. And no kitchen. Sometimes I had to cook together. Those days they were cooking here and serving there. I mean, such a struggle. Just to buy bhoga. Imagine cooking and taking every day for the restaurant. He was doing it personally, with very little help. All glories to the devotees also who helped him in such struggle. And then it didn't work out. He got a center in Oud and Plan. Now we see we are struggling. We cannot have anything. He tried his best. I mean, I said, what a man. What a man. Never gave up. Life of dedication. With these things, I remember Tapas Prabhu. Yes, he understood the message of Prabhupada and applied in his life. And through his life, he left an example. He has left an example to try to follow. I don't know how many people will need to make one Tapas Prabhu what he did. Of course, personally speaking, we also have, it came, in this time of service, it comes conflicts and this and that. And this is also an opportunity for me to beg forgiveness at his lotus feet. Because I was new, I was immature, I'm still immature, and I was, I had rebellious nature. So on this platform, I also want to beg forgiveness, which I could not do properly. He was physically present, but I can do it now. And take his blessings so that I can take his mood, I can take some element of his complete life of dedication to Guru, Gauranga and Lord Krishna, and make my life successful as he has done. Thank you, Tapas Prabhuji, for giving us such a amazing, it's hard example to follow, but always an inspiration before me. Hare Krishna.
I was serving under the guidance of Tapas Prabhu from 1999, because he was the one who became, temple president or congregational leader in 1999 here in Stockholm. So I was serving under his protection or under his guidance from 1999 and onwards until then when he left this world, 2025. So that was quite many years. And but always, as so many has always been describing his wonderful qualities here, but what struck me very, very much was his incredible steadiness. He was such a steady devotee. He was always doing everything so steadily. Whatever you can, sadhana bhakti. He was such a steady performer of sadhana bhakti, and always did everything so with such a intense focus and concentration. And it's amazed me, because I'm not a super sadhaka, to be honest, but he was very liberal, and he also could inspire devotees wherever they were, their level, so to say. And he sometimes he was a little bit, he had some distance to me sometimes, but I think it was because he wanted to tell me that I should be careful, because my nature is a little bit liberal. I'm kind of liberal person, and I think he wanted just to give me some lessons that be careful, because Maya is very strong, and one can easily slip to the left or to the right or whatever, down. So from that point of view, I want to thank him, of course. But sometimes I was a little bit upset, but why is he keeping a distance to me? But I can understand that he wanted somehow to help me, to give me some inspiration to not do something that is not so Krishna conscious. But anyway, I was also very much inspired by his. He was a very intellectual person. He was a Brahmana. He was a typical Brahmana. He was very intellectual. He was knowledgeable about so many things, not only Krishna conscious subject matters, not only Shastra. He was also knowledgeable about so many things from the ordinary world. And he could use that in his lectures also. And I liked very much he was very much attacking Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, very much attacking Nirvishesha Shunyavadi and nihilism. And I like that also very much, because we are a personalistic movement. We are personalists, and we must be very, very careful and really attack sometimes. And he did that. He was attacking Nirvishesha Shunyavadi in a very philosophical way. And I think that's very, very, very important, because all our modern societies are very much influenced by this impersonalism and voidism and nihilism and all these things. So therefore I got a lot of inspiration from that. And he could give some wonderful seminars and lectures and so on. So from that point of view, he was a great inspiration for me. But sometimes we had a little bit tense relation somehow. I don't know why, but as I already said, I think he wanted to tell me that, be careful. Because he was so strict himself, he did everything according to all the rules and regulations and so on. And I also try my best, of course, to do that also. But my nature is a little bit more liberal, so to say. but I have a taste for Krishna consciousness, definitely, at least. But he was like the one who one could look up to and get some inspiration from, because he was really following the whole thing as it is, as Srila Prabhupada wanted it to be, as it is. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Tapas Prabhu, for everything. And I hope that I can become a more sincere devotee, a devotee who can do something more for Srila Prabhupada's movement, or for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Transcendental Sankirtan movement also. And I pray for your blessings. Pray for your blessings. Tapas Prabhu ki jai.
For Prabhu from this chair. Sripad Tapas Prabhu ki jai. Tapas Prabhu is for real a wonderful personality. And when we pray to one another, Vancha Kalpa Tarumyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bevacha. So Tapas Prabhu is really this example of Kalpatara, or this desire tree. Not in the way that he would fulfill everyone's desire in the literal meaning, no. But at the same time, whoever would associate with him, they would benefit from him in any way. First of all in a spiritual way, but then in material way as well. He helped me a lot in my life, and he would be available for everyone. Pretty much for everyone. And he cared for every single person. I remember that second day when he left this world, and we all gathered in their apartment, and I was leading Kirtan, and his favorite tune, that is actually initially Adirasa Prabhu's tune, and everyone was crying, remembering Tapas Prabhu, because everyone felt that they lost something in their heart. At the same time, when speaking about Tapas Prabhu's dedication, it's always nice to memorize his last days in this world. That Bhaktivinoda Prabhu, I was expecting him to mention these things, so I'll do it. I remember he told me that he got sick with that lung problem, where the lung alveoles are replaced with that kind of unbreathing tissue. And gradually, the person starts to breathe less and less, could get oxygen less and less. But at the same time, that sickness progressed. But at the same time, we could still observe how Tapas Prabhu would participate in all the Sunday feast programs, all other programs. He would come, he would preach, he would chant kirtans with such a great enthusiasm. He was a nice musician. I always admired how he would pick up any melody, anyone would sing, and he would pick up and follow with harmonium, kartals, mridanga. He was pretty universal in many ways. But after a while, one could notice that his ability to do things would reduce, because less oxygen, less ability to do something. Then he would stop leading kirtan at some point, but still would come to the Sunday feast programs, give wonderful, deep and simple at the same time lectures, so that everyone could conceive the crucial philosophical concepts of Krishna consciousness. Then after a while he would stop playing mridanga, but still would join every program stably. Then he would stop playing kartals, still giving wonderful, deep lectures. then so he would be dedicated to his last ability to do at least something for devotees. That was amazing. And even though when he stopped being able to join Sunday feast, so he was lying in his bed, very last days, so he would instruct every devotee. Bhaktinidhi Prabhu, he was also mentioning on some other Remembrance Day that he was very clear in his instructions, clear-minded, even though no oxygen, somehow he was still functioning on some spiritual energy. No one still can understand how that was even possible. To the very, very last day, he was very clear-minded, instructing all of us how to proceed with that project of Brahma Kumbha. Because when Amarendra Prabhu mentioned a very important thing about how he would, like, how many people are required to handle what he was handling alone. And that's something that we are now trying to do, because we do consider this project crucial and important for all the devotees and guests to gather to speak about Krishna consciousness, to help one another to practice Krishna consciousness, to chant holy names, to associate with one another, to eat prasadam, to honor prasadam. These are very important things, and they are very difficult to achieve if we don't do endeavor in maintaining these things. And all of a sudden, when Brahma Kul fell on our shoulders, and we are kind of many people now in our board, because before I would be like a regular visitor of Sunday feast, just and from that perspective you perceive the Krishna consciousness, the temple, quite straightforward, simple, Vaishnavas here, Kirtan there, and devotees here, and just so simple. Then you take prasadam and you leave and do your own things. But then, when you get little tinge of that responsibility Tapas Prabhu had, then you realize there are so many processes that have to be maintained here, finances, here, people, resources, so to say, in the personal way we can say that, so we call it resources, not impersonalized people who dedicate themselves into their sincere devotional service. And that's the way how we try to perceive everything we do here. So that is, on one hand, that dedication of Tapas Prabhu, as it was mentioned that he was so austere, but still he was open to everyone, and he was gentle to everyone. And when Bhaktinidhi Prabhu mentioned that he is a liberal person, no, Tapas Prabhu wasn't a conservative person. He was conservative to himself, to his own practice of Krishna consciousness. But he was very liberal to all other people. He was caring for every people. And it still leaves that kind of deep inspiration in our hearts, and that also gives us energy to proceed with what Tapas Prabhu left us here, that wonderful project. So, Shripad Tapas Prabhu ki jai.
Okay. So many wonderful glorifications I have heard here. I'm very grateful for that. And for each thing you were taking up, I had pictures, so many pictures. Someone was speaking about, Saran. I remember him, he was sitting on a blanket or something with all the pots around him. And he was serving each person from this, on the floor. He was sitting, especially in that old temple room, it was like that. And that's one picture. When I just see him like this, I mean, he has done the whole day chanting kirtan and giving lecture and I don't know what, and had check up with everyone. And now he's sitting there and distributing prasadam with a smile and offering this, offering that. And it's so beautiful. That was that, and then there is one part of the history of Hare Krishna Center. It is our festivals, and it started like it was on Nityananda's appearance day. He told me, say something. I said, my goodness. So I was asking them, do you know do you know how you have got the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu? And the devotees were shaking their heads. But you have no more material desires. That's all. Very simple. And I think from that point of view, we had a very great inspiration. I started to decorate the temple with different kinds of decorations, which I made at home. And then one day I told him, I have this pastime, what do you think about this? And I told him the pastime, and he was listening, with his eyes were like shining. He was so happy to hear. And this repeated, repeatedly every month. We did the festivals for quite some years. I made the decorations in the whole temple, maybe someone remembers. And we did, and I did this fancy Abhishek stands, and also theater, and dance, and songs, and all these things. And every time I told him, he was so enthusiastic. Oh yes, this. And then we collected something in the story, and then we played the theaters, or the group that we had. And he was so into the relationships between the persons in the Tanya, for example, all these interactions. He had so clear picture. And our hero, he was there also, all each and every one. And many of them. So, just to see him, it's like he had kind of a long day and doing so many things, and then I sat down and I told him, we're sitting, at the table there in the restaurant, and I told him, I have this idea. What do you think? Oh, tell me. And he started to look very alive, his eyes, and he was listening, and then we did it, so it was like that, just like this. I saw his face like this, and the pastimes were too. I mean, there are so many pictures and so many, but he was really the one who made me bloom a service in the temple, in the Hare Krishna Center. Actually, I did all the services at home, and then I brought it to the temple, and we did, of course, all the rehearsals and all that. And he was so alert and awake, and some small details. I said, "No, we do like this." No, he said, "This is not possible." At one time, I think it was Advaita Prabhu was worshipping Yogashinga Shila, and somehow in this past time there was a garland who should be offered, and Lord Chaitanya had a garland already, and I suggested, hey, give him, and Lord Chaitanya will give it back, this garland which he has.
I see like this in Mayapur. My Guru Maharaj is always, someone giving him a garland, and then he give that one which he has on his body, he give to that person. Many times I saw like that. And he said, no, it's not possible. Okay. And also I remember we played Krishna's birth in the prison house. And when everything was there, and the baby was there, and I said to Tapas, Prabhu, are you not going to show your wife little appreciation or something like, you know what I mean? I don't know, comforting her, it's hard work, and also show some affection or something. This is not my family, but so it was very, very rich to see his all. I should finish now, I kept too long. But there are many, many pictures. It's just like boom, the film is coming to my mind, remembering all these things. And now I'm very, very, very grateful. And it seems that Tapas Prabhu, his dear and big friend, Lord Prabhu, they had talked, and he, as I understand, he had requested Lord Prabhu to take care of this. And what I have seen in our development and our support and guidance and whatever from Lord Prabhu, it is like, I have no words. It is just so great and so wonderful. All glories, all glories, all glories.
Tapas Prabhu ki jai. So, how I know him, Tapas Prabhu, is that I am, as you know, I am from Iceland. I joined as a 17-year-old kid from Iceland in Germany during the 1990, just before the 1990 marathon. I don't know if those who were in ISKCON at that time, that was the biggest Sankirtan marathon in ISKCON history. It was just when the Iron Curtain had fallen and the devotees went into Germany, into East Germany, and did like 1 million books in 1 year or something like that. So I was kind of, when I joined, I was taken by that fever, and I had no ability to distribute books, but I felt like I had to do books, So shortly after, I took shelter of Sotra Swami Maharaj, who was very close to the Norwegian Yatra. It's very close to Tapas Prabhu and Tilakana Prabhu. He was like he was like the Santa Claus, would come, once a year, enliven devotees in Scandinavia. So when I was unable to do any books, he sent me to Norway, because that's where I could maybe do some books, and eventually I went with Tapas Prabhu on traveling Sankirtan, and so Tapas Prabhu was very he was like, at that time he was like the legendary, he was got the grandfather Vishnu of Sankirtan in Scandinavia. So he was very and like that steadiness was the most amazing thing about him. Two things that I think: he was very, very steady. So he did the exact amount of books, the same. He did the Titles Wisdom, the only big book in Norwegian, because he insisted on disciplining those in Norway, because he was so sensitive to the Norwegian people, because all the other books were in Danish, most of them. So, and that would upset him. So he was like so sensitive. He was such a sensitive person. So he insisted on selling that book, and he did exactly 40 books at that time. Every day, wherever he was, every town, 40 books a day, and he would just finish the day. It was like there was 40 big books. There's a lot of books. Doesn't matter how big or small the town was, like that. So, later on, of course, I moved on, but I would, meet him from time to time, and we met. In Italy recently, we were talking about nihilism, when he was talking how the Western society is affected by nihilism. How they basically in the 19th century, how they tried to erase the whole, different isms, communism, all these different isms. They have the same philosophy of wanting to erase everything and establish like a utopia on top of a devastated landscape. Kind of. So he had this. He wanted to write a book on it. I don't know if he wrote the book or started writing it, but he was telling me about this. But one thing I just want to say about when Elsa was speaking, it was very touching. But the quality that I find very interesting about Tapas Prabhu is that he really had the aptitude of a resident of the spiritual world, because he always felt everyone else was better than him. Because it doesn't matter how senior he was, he's always pushed young devotees forward. He'd always see the good qualities, and just like they say in the third canto, this famous verse that when the king of the bumblebees sings in a high pitch, all the chakravakas, cuckoos, all these very nice birds, they will get quiet and listen to that bird beat sing. So this is Tapas Prabhu was very senior. He was very appreciative of anyone had to say something. He would listen and he would always push people forward. He was very humble like that. At the same time, he was able to be your boss. He was able to be like your big brother and tell you what to do. So it's kind of, we have this wonderful quality, and so I'm sure he is there now in the spiritual world. He's already embodying those qualities. But that's actually if you want to tell who is to go back to God, that's the distinction between the material world and the spiritual world. In the mature world,